Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. Mud flood was the Armageddon that caused the golden age past, the start of the 1,000 years. We've had the reaping. We're waiting on the Lord. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. I I've got us a weak Wi-Fi signal tonight, and I'm hoping for the best. And Lord willing, we're going to we're going to go for it. And why did Jesus need a rod of iron to rule the golden age, or why did Jesus need a rod at all? What was it like to rule? Let's look at the verse first, and we'll get into it. A lot of hidden topics, a very eclectic show tonight, but the main takeaway will probably be, he ruled with the rod of iron because that's the only way that humans with our wicked and despicable hearts, you know, can relate. The punishment. It's what it would seem, but here's the Bible verses. Where am I at? Here we go. All right. So Revelation 2:27, I believe that's the church at Sardis. Them with a rod of iron, he'll rule them. Revelation 12:15, with a rod of iron, her child was caught away. He's going to rule them with the rod of iron, and that child was caught away. Revelation 19:15, well, that's in the middle of Armageddon, where the beast and the false prophet are thrown into the pit or thrown into the lake of fire. I don't know why I always say that. I don't always, but the last week I have made that mistake, misspeaking. Hopefully there'll be a case of misspeaking from another channel I can go over here in a while. Rules them with a rod of iron, because he's going to lake of fire for the beast and false prophet into the pit. And then in, Revelation 19, the survivors, those who hid in the hills, you got to get ruled with a rod of iron. Let's look back at that verse. The ruling is actually shepherding in a lot of verses. I'm not sure if if shepherding or ruling. I know that the Lord is the good shepherd in the Old Testament. Overseers. When you're a deacon, you're an overseer. You're going to be, feed the church, rule them. We should have a presbytery of mud flooders, of like, this is our mud flood church. The full usages of it: to act as a shepherd, tend herd, hence I rule, I govern. Pomeneo, shepherding, pastoring, is distinct from feeding. That's 1006 in the Greek Concordance. Focuses on tending, which includes guarding, guiding, folding the flock, and is provided ultimately by Jesus Christ, the shepherd, and who he calls under shepherds to guard and guide his people by his direction. So we're at 4165. The next, we will look at that. I didn't avail myself to that when I was preparing. So it's also a purer word for shepherd, pastors. And so that is going to tie into the shepherding of the sheep. We are his sheep. Properly in the parable, he to whose care and control others have committed themselves, and whose precepts they follow. B, metaphorically, the presiding officer, manager, director of an assembly. Something that would make, the brother of Jesus Christ, James, say, we've talked about it. We've come to a conclusion. We've prayed, and I have reached a decision. Here are 4 requirements. That's how somebody that is the leader in Jerusalem and the pastor of that church responds. So that's a good one. We'll keep that open in case we can get back to it, Lord willing. The topics keep coming. Here is the verse. Revelation 2:27. They will rule the nations with a rod of iron and smash them like clay pots, is the New Living Translation. Let's look at the Berean literal. And he will shepherd them, excuse me, with a rod of iron, as the vessels of the potter are broken to pieces, as I also have received from my Father. All right. Broken to shivers, and the King James will shiver my timbers. Felt my throat acting up there. I had to grab a quick drink. Let's look at that. $2.27. The rod of iron is right there. He will shepherd them with a rod of iron, as the vessels of a potter are broken, as I have received from my Father. I will also give to him the morning star, in verse 28. So that's, things are happening here. Thyatira. As many as do not have this teaching, but who have not known the depths of Satan, as they say, I will not cast upon you any other burden, but hold fast to that which you have, until which time I might come. Again, speaking to people, writing to people, first person, you hold on, please hold on. You've almost made it. That's what you have to get your mind around. As I was talking to Brother Luther, you know him as Yaswil Soaring today, he was quite adamant. And I agree that that's one of the hardest things to realize, is the people that are, every day thinking, this is it. It can't get any worse. Oh, my goodness. Let's see here. To one having an ear, verse 7, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To the one overcoming, I will give him to eat of the tree of life, which is in the paradise of God. Now, Smyrna. Was it Sardis one? Where's that seat of Satan? Pergamon. I don't believe it was Pergamon. Thyatira. They know the depths of Satan. Sardis. I know your deeds, the middle of verse 1, that you have the characterization that you are alive and yet you are dead. Be watching and strengthen the things that remember, which are about to die, for I have not found your works having been completed in my sight. Oh, no. But you have a few people in Sardis who have not soiled their garments. So it's not Philadelphia. It must have been one of those earlier church. I just missed it. But there was a throne of Satan. It's probably, let me check to make sure I'm still going in the comments. Welcome, Will Sorry. Just talking. There's Edis Carey, Shiver Me Timbers. Welcome, Smart Pod. Glad to have you back. He was a great commentator in today's video. That would be a great world, wouldn't it? The devil couldn't deceive the nations, living free, not being ruled by Satan. All right. That's our future. That's our future. That's definitely not our present. Okay. Is this the last verse? Hey, let's check out this here. Revelation 19. We're going to go down through 15 where that whole rod of iron is mentioned again. Then I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. The one sitting on it is called Faithful and True, and he is righteous. He judges and makes war. His eyes are like a flame of fire, and on his head are many diadems, many crowns, and he has a. This is important too, because there's right now some 20 people out there working on videos that are going to try to convince you that they know the name of Jesus Christ, and if you don't say it right, you're not going to heaven. Well, let's read verse 12 again. Jesus has eyes that are like a flame of fire, and on his head are many diadems, and he has a name written that no one knows but himself. And maybe we'll get to learn it when he whispers our real names to us or shows it on a written stone or how we're going to get it. We don't even know our real name. Don't listen to somebody that says, you know, you got to pronounce it Yahuda Hey or Yahuda Wa or Yahuda Hey. It's Yahudi. It's God. His name is his reputation. Verse 13, he is clothed in a robe dipped in blood, and the name by which he is called is the word of God. We know who we're talking about. And the armies of heaven, arrayed in fine linen, white and pure, were following him on white horses. From his mouth comes a sharp sword with which to strike down the nations, and he will rule them, shepherd them with a rod of iron, because that's one of the things that was going to be happening. We're the spirit's always willing, the flesh is always weak, and it needs a rod of iron. He, Jesus, will tread the winepress of the fury of the wrath of God the Almighty. On his robe and on his thigh, he has a name written, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. Come gather gather the vultures. They were going to do it. Let's go. Let's see one of these times of where something might be maybe a hint of what it would be like during those times when we're going to go to Isaiah 19. I want everybody there to hang on. How we doing? I'm still sharing. Hallelujah for that. All right. Let's go down to the bottom here just to give you the context. And then we'll go up and see what it kind of looks like with the rod of iron. Maybe. Maybe. Verse 24. In that day, and I'm thinking, Israel will be a third with Assyria. Okay, I'll read it in the way it's written. In that day, Israel will be a third with Egypt and with Assyria, a blessing in the midst of the earth, whom the Lord of hosts has blessed, saying, Blessed be Egypt, my people, and Assyria, the work of my hands, and Israel, the stiff necked group that had descendants of Isaac, Abraham, Jacob, David, a promise to David that one of his will sit on the throne. Jesus Christ was in the flesh related that way. So Israel was his inheritance, and he ruled them with that rod of iron, because verse 23, we're going to go backwards here, because this is that same day that there will be a highway from Egypt to Assyria, and they'll come into Egypt and Egypt into Assyria, and Egypt and the Assyrians will worship with them, because at some point in time, we'll pick it up here in verse 21. And the Lord will make himself known to the Egyptians, and the Egyptians will know the Lord in that day and worship with sacrifice. Now, I don't believe that means the blood offering. That would kill this whole thought. But there's something going on here with these inheritances and worshiping the Lord at sometime in that day. And they will make vows to the Lord and perform them, and the Lord will strike Egypt. That sounds like shepherding to me, striking and healing They will return. They're returning to the Lord. They've been with the Lord, and now they're returning, and He will hear their pleas and for mercy and heal them. I don't know. I don't get the idea. It's going. That anywhere there's humans, it's going to be like, whoa, it's perfect now because there's no Satan. Oh, really? What about that stain of sin? Conceived in sin, like the first mother Eve. She didn't have to, have the breath of life breathed into her. It was there when she was created from Adam. He had to have the breath of pneumas breathed into him when he was created from the dust. Seems like it could be a rod of iron, because they're, an altar, someplace to worship the Lord in the midst of Egypt, pillar of the Lord at its border, 5 cities in the land of Egypt that, they speak the language of Canaan and swear allegiance to the Lord of hosts. When was that? One of them, maybe they even lived in the city of destruction in its ruins. I don't know. One of those where they were speaking Hebrew and worshiping God. It's as strange as all those God fearing Greeks building synagogues for the Jews in the time of Jesus, almost as if they were hoping that he was the light to the Gentiles. From his mouth comes a sword to which to strike down the nations, and he will rule them with a rod of iron. We'll take questions and comments on that later. And well, I'm going to see if there's any ideas on it now. Anybody got any ideas on that? Wait, what did you just say? The work of my hands? The work of my hands is what I meant to say. I probably did say work of my hams. My ham bone is connected to the ham bone. Hey, look at that. We love pictures. I know I do. This is a gravestone. Look at that. That guy, I mean, that is a big high. How you doing? What up? Got a grave cemetery or gravestone. Somebody doing like, hi. We were happy serving the Lord in the golden age, I guess. We'll see what this is, and then we're going to look at the pictures. Oh, this is that Vlachs. We were going to look at them, yeah, but I don't really know. I think I only pulled up a couple of pictures, so we're not going to have the usual fun because you know how busy it gets around here. But anyway, I was watching a video, and I'm not going to talk about it too much, but I do want to make a point here because I just misspoke, and I misspoke twice in my video today and made comments about it in the chat room. I did a little premiere 15-minute thing going over the tabs of tonight's show. Then I watched this here, Millennial Kingdom Theory. And this guy, he used to be the clowns are Nephilim, but he didn't know what a Nephilim was. So then the clowns were demons, and then the clowns are fallen angels. But now he's somehow in this video, he's drawn to, man, he never saw it coming, but he is into the millennial kingdom theory. And actually, if I see it, I can quickly find it. I'll share. So that's one of the pictures I took, because I think I wanted to emphasize that this geographic North Pole, magnetic North Pole, it seemed in the Understanding Conspiracy came out today as a Bible believing ball globe loving Christian doesn't see the big deal in it, hasn't studied it since 2015, but now wants to, now has new opinions about, here he said the millennial kingdom thing is that, Jesus never left the earth. See, he's up there at the camp of the north. That's what he's got going up there. And maybe these guys were models of genius of Jesus, and well, that camp of the saints is up there. Well, There was all kinds of people in the comments, flat earthers that are excited about his things. So that was shown earlier from today, some of the tabs I'm going to go over. Hey, who were women who dabbled in prostitution during the Victorian age? Is it A, were they called she's a garden tool, like a hoe, or B, a dolly mop? She's like a where you put the mop in the dolly and wheel it around. Or C, she's an easy lady who just dabbled in prostitution. It was B, the dolly mop. And they left a lot of words out of the dictionary. I was studying that earlier. Forbidden history 200 years ago, giants, you know, uh, something. Do they need those doors? Like, look at this picture. This is they're up at the top of one of those star forts, baby, in the tower. And well, the guardrail is, doesn't it usually hit a human about the waist? Well, you can look, good thing that you can look through the slats. These poles look like they were added because humans could probably slip through there. I don't think whoever they were made for, and we don't know. I don't know when it was it all 15-foot giants. The Bible doesn't talk about it, and oh my goodness, that's this whole thing about the oral tradition of the law is really coming down to that's probably why they only brought the lady accused of tradition and was trying to trap Jesus. And, oh, you don't like the oral law. Who would? But, who without sin, you cast the first stone was his answer. But according to a lot of this oral tradition, Talmud, it looks like they can get away with about anything they wanted back in the day. What was a bondmaid? Who could marry a bondmaid? That's just too much. We got too much to go for. So the Vlachs, I did want people to become aware of them. Valachian, the Middle Ages, the Eastern Romantic languages, the modern day Romanians, Slovenians. So these guys supposedly been around a while here. Still used in Polish today. The etymology, let's look at that. Adopted from the Proto-Germanic Valts. Somehow they're saying that ended up being Welsh, Romanish, Hungarian, Strabo, Wales, Walloon. There's that grave site. Romanian scholars have suggested that the term Vlach appears for the first time in Eastern Roman Empire and was subsequently spread to the Germanic, then Slavic speaking world through the Norsemen, possibly the Wangarians, Vargarians, Varangarians, who were in trade and military contact during that Byzantine period that it seems Rome tried to build back up in the 1700s. Not Rome, Russia. It was Russia, those guys. So let's get to according to the original one theory. Modern Romanians, Moldavians, and Aromanians originated from the Greeks. The Dacians were an ancient Indo-European inhabitant of the cultural region of the Dacia. According to some linguists and scholars, the Eastern Romantic languages prove the survival of the Thraco-Romans in the lower Danube basin during what they call the migration period. They got it all figured out. Greek, Serb, or Latin, it doesn't matter because these are just words that they run across. But they tie in everybody. I mean, eventually, we've seen Central Europe getting into Russia in the 8th century. uncertain, but these are part of the people that took down Rome. These guys here, they helped those Vandals and the Goths, and you don't want to mess with that guy. I wouldn't want to mess with that guy. Look, maybe he's a giant or something. I don't know. No, that's 1852. Couldn't have been a giant. 10th century name was used for Thessaly, today's modern Mesopotamia. Well, that wasn't it. Macedonia, North Macedonia, one of the first breakaway republics, and its first flag was the double-headed eagle. Bring it back. All right. What else? Who have we seen? Anything else here familiar? Don't know that. Hellas. Be honest with you, I didn't even mean to click it and was just seeing if there was something there that maybe the Lord wanted me to look at. So these guys took down, and they got and I never heard really about them, but here again we see that there's I looked at this map and I was rather disappointed. But here's Transylvania. I saw Philippi. There's a church mentioned in the Bible. Pretty good castle, star fort. So they're in on it. They're in on it. The Vlachs is just one of those things, And then I also, coming off of last night, it just seemed like I was looking. The Lord was leading it towards women and children ruled over them when, really, since 1711, it did look like, the category contains categories relating to child monarchs. They were the sovereigns, though they had not yet reached the age of majority. That's where you can be recognized as an adult, do those, like voting and driving the car, different ages for different things. So just unbelievable that, King James the One, he was one of those child monarchs. And when their moms are ruling over everything, I wonder if it's any different than having an emperor dowager, to where basically mom's in charge. We're going to get into some of those things, like uh, Russia, Catherine the Great. What how did that really work out? Because Peter the Great was one of these guys that's all of a sudden, you're the elected king, you're the czar of all Russia. In 1721, his first act after coming back from Europe and learning all the great things, never bothering to learn to speak Russian, he said, dig out St. Petersburg, that's my new capital. And he didn't really reign that long, and then his sister took over, and she learned to speak Russian, and they loved her, and she ruled for 50 years trying to bring back that Byzantine style. There you go. Yeah, that's a woman. She did not get breaching. Reigned for 58 years. Ivan the Four. So during that time, they definitely were picking them young and saying, "You're the king, go for it." The nations couldn't be deceived during the golden age, but something happened. I just wanted, the main takeaway here is look at how long during what periods of times were men ruled by children. I guess we're going to get into the women later, because right now we're at kuklu, and that's a word that, when Jerusalem gets surrounded, because we got the understanding conspiracy, wherever he's talking about the North Pole, he thinks it's up at the top of the North Pole. And somehow I get the idea that the Theron and his wife believe that there's a large city at what the ball tarters call the North Pole, that there might be a North Pole or something up there that's an amazing land. So I was breaking down this, when Jesus is surrounded and encompassed about and being encircled. Well, that's in Luke 21. You'll know what it's like because it's what happened in Armageddon when Jerusalem is surrounded by armies, and you see this, and you know what's going to happen, right? Well, somebody somehow is going to get encircled about. Let's see if there are any other, whether he jumps out at you here with any other of these verses. Well, the disciples stood around him. That's like Jesus would have been encompassed about. You're going to get surrounded by, yeah, an army of Gog and Magog. Saints are going to get a camp is going to get circled about. Not a great Poland, not that great city that we looked at. This is the camp that is getting circled about. That's a difference, and it's something that, Lord willing, we have time. We're not getting raptured tomorrow or next week. We're going to have time to work these things out because somebody encircled, surrounded, no doubt about it, a camp. This isn't a city of the saints and the city having the beloved. Okay. Well, I don't know if they're counting the city where seated in heavenly places. I don't know, but I do know, and I've shown that the camp of the saints is considered elsewhere. It's translated as barracks, and barracks aren't anything to be ashamed of in the star fort world. And neither would be being born in a stable when you see some of the beautiful stables in the star fort world, you know. But it's a barrack, it's a castle. Barrack, it's a castle. It's never a camp, or of like the camp in the wilderness. It's a place that had been built for people to live, and usually these barracks might imply that they've been abandoned or not used anymore, or and when they return to the castle or the barracks, and notice it is the same word, but they all go with the camp of the saints, and go with something completely different. After I've just shown you that word is the seven times here where it's this word. I mean, it's not that much different than the others, just some prefix changes. There's no, it's a great big city. It's always going to be safety in like captains over tens, captains over hundreds, captains over 1,000, and that's enough. That's as big as spread out. Let's get some new captains. This is any army in battle array. So, we are going to be the army of the Lord, but we're going to be fighting with peace. We are not going to be digging in. And let me just, I'm going to come back, see if there's any more questions, and I'll take that and just say to you honestly, the difference, the reason that God is going to bless those who make it and have been encompassed about, because they're not the ones that have 245s on their side and an AR-15 in their back and a tricked out 50 cal sniper. What are those, bearing or bruning or whatever those things are, those single shots, that this is my land, and this is Jesus's Shiloh. He owns everything. He has encouraged us to open our eyes, open our ears, and hear that there's going to come a time where a people will say, I'm not going to kill this person. They don't know what they're doing. You're going to beat your sword into a plowshare. You're going to admit this is not my real property. If I, pretend bought it from a bank, they stole it from somebody. That's the difference. If you want to fight these people, you will die. If you want to have to be found and then surrounded, because by the time they know you coming with what I see as an army of scouts, captains, soldiers who don't kill, it's time to move out so that when they show up, there's nobody here. How are we going to live until 2046? We're going to be in places where it's not economically feasible for them to come hunt us down because of what's going on in the cities. Adding more complex layers, there is the Unix epoch, the planned computer's failure in 2038 that can't be fixed. And then that's when the real encompassing about comes from the leftover people in the cities and the rulers who are saying, wow, how do we grow our own food? What do we do? Let's go get them and we'll take their lands and get their foods. It's going to be busy, but it is not going to involve rallying behind uh, someone, whether it be Trump or somebody like Trump later, who is saying, rally around me, we'll fight them all. You will die. This is a judgment, not a restoration. Where in the Bible, is the judgment? I mean, it comes Armageddon, Satan's loose, falls apart. He comes, rescues us again in Revelation 27 through 10. And then in Revelation 20, verse 11, hey, the great white throne. Well, come on, I'm clicking. Man, that was unfun. That was super unfun. And I just can't believe the hassles I get with the Wi Fi. And Lord had 16, 18 people here for the first time in a while. But that's the way it goes. Praise you, Father. Praise your holy name. I will do whatever I can to get, some better Wi-Fi back in here and trying to, you know, get it out. I realize that has to be so frustrating. It is equally frustrating to me, and I have done everything that I can to try to keep it going. I know. And I have to get another, I'm trying to restart it and doing everything else. No, I counted those fingers, Smart Pod. There were only 5, and they seemed kind of rough too. It wasn't as good as I really wanted. But we got to keep rolling to try to get through some of these things as much as we can. And if it crashes again, Lord willing, you know, tomorrow I'll go buy one of those Wi-Fi enhancers, and because I want to be able to communicate without these hassles. Let's just let's just roll from these other tabs. We've got a good start there, so that was Psalm 89. I will sing of your steadfast love forever. With my mouth, I will make known your faithfulness to all generations. Verse 1. How many generations have called out to another generation more confused than ours? Verse 2. For I Now there was no audio on that. That's just absolute. I'm not going to put you through this. I'm going to have to, let it go, because and then maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a video and then upload it with these thoughts, and hopefully you can put the comments on, but I'm not going to subject you. And I thank you for putting up with this so far. uh, Again, you can look forward to Maria Fedorovna, more information on Empress Dowagers. The new Empress of Japan should be interesting. We're going to be studying the breaching of boys, where into the 1900s, moms were dressing their children like little girls, and then between 2 and 6 and sometimes up to 8 years old, then they would finally do it. We'll go over some more lost words of the dictionary that they left off. I'm going to touch on the Talmud, Madame Lichtenstein's cosmetic world, whatever that is. We'll look at the Uragarians. We're going to look at and trace the doggone haplogroups that show the Cro-Magnons and the Neanderthals. We're one with them, man. The whole idea of yeah, there were Nephilim, there were giants. David, Abraham took care of a lot of them. Moses almost finished them off. David probably did finish them off. There's still some remnants in our blood where giants can pop up, but no one is focusing on, oh my gosh, Nephilim could be alive on earth today and we should. That's not what the Bible is about. That's maybe 5% of the Bible, weird stuff going on, and the rest of it is cut and dried. Are you following Jesus? Have you picked up your cross and followed him today? Do you realize that the golden age has passed? We're waiting on it. They want us to pick up arms. They want us to love and Donald Trump or Joe Biden or those type of people. That's the problem. We don't need to worry about, oh my gosh, I got Cro-Magnon blood or whatever. Yeah, we all do. But we're going to be judged by our heart. We don't stop. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho, aloha, arrivederci, ciao, sayonara, avita,